let's start as we have before. If you want to do a little bit of worry writing, you can pick out your notebook, jot down whatever is weighing on your mind. And I'm just going to close the window because there's some traffic. And if you have any extra time, you might also like to write what any of your favorites were over the time that we've been together. If anything stands out to you, I really liked body scan, I really liked that one breathing technique, as a reminder to yourself. I'm going to give us a little music. Okay. And one last thing to write. If you can think of one big takeaway for you from this whole program, if there's something that stands out that you think, okay, that is really working for me. We also have our moment to grab our essential oil and put a drop on a tissue or in our hands. And I've actually, if anybody ever has to do, I mean, you can do it morning or night, but when I've been leaving here to go home, I have a clothes peg on my car air vent, and I'll put a drop of lavender, and I feel like I absorb the effects on the way home. which is I'm always looking for tips for shift workers or for times when, you know, we all would love to have this beautiful yoga routine, but sometimes this thing you really want to do goes until 11 o'clock at night. What can you do on the way home? You can drink your tea in the car, you can put your drop of lavender on the clothes peg. Okay, when you're ready, we can come into a seated position for our opening meditation. And I have chosen for us, this one is so confusing for me. It's one of the confusing mudras. Like I have to like prep myself before I show you. It's not, there is one I'm actually like incapable of doing. This one's easier than that. So it is Ashvaratna Mudra, or the jeweled horse gesture. And it is supposed to help us overcome negative patterns that may be holding us back, and new possibilities will present themselves. So as we move forward into our new way of life, hopefully this one will help us. So we can actually start, it's probably easiest to just interlace everything. Then let our thumbs go. Okay, here's the hard part. And then our pinky and our ring finger. So it takes a little dexterity. Yeah, okay, great. I'll show you one more time. So I just found it easiest to clasp everything, then release your thumbs, and then the pinky and the ring finger. I don't know if it would be any easier to take your hands and just interlace the first two fingers. For some reason, I actually find that more confusing. Okay. We're working both sides of our brain. We're getting smarter, even if we feel confused. So let's go ahead and sit comfortably. Option to close our eyes, of course. Sitting tall. We may like to say the affirmation as I hold this mudra. I see myself overcoming negative patterns that may be holding me back. New possibilities present themselves. If it's comfortable to keep holding this mudra, we can. We may like to hold it in front of our third eye chakra. This is our ability to see the unseen, our power to see new opportunities and to envision a better future. And of course, if anything isn't quite comfortable, it's the intention behind it that means the most. So we could have the same intention even if our hands aren't exactly like this or aren't exactly in the same spot. Being open to new possibilities here. Let's go ahead and rest our hands down. We can hold this hand position or let it go completely. Maybe picturing ourselves overcoming whatever negative patterns we've had. Well, what would that look like? How would we feel? And then let's go ahead and release our hands. And we'll begin with our 3-part breath. So as we inhale, feeling the air drop down into the lowest part of our lungs, filling them from bottom to top. Maybe picturing that we're filling our lungs like we fill a glass of water. And once they're full, simply letting them empty out. So we can keep breathing like this, or we can add a 4, 7, 8 breath. So let's start by inhaling for a count of 4. And exhaling for a count of 8. Full complete inhale, 4. Slow exhale, 8. Now here's the part that might feel a little tougher. We're going to inhale for 4, and with our lungs full, we're going to hold. So inhale 4, hold for 7, exhale 8. So in short, in for 4, hold for 7, exhale 8. So this technique is usually recommended to calm or soothe anxiety or stress. It's from Dr. Andrew Weil. And it's also recommended for sleep. And he says that a lot of his patients will do between 4 and 8 rounds of breath, and they're often asleep by the last round of breath. So let's see if we can do a couple more. In for 4, hold with the lungs full. We might feel that really kind of full balloon feeling. That's okay. And then slow exhale. We'll let the breath return to normal, and let's take stock of how we're feeling. Physically, head to toe, noticing whatever kind of hum of energy is going on in the body. Maybe we can name an emotion or two that we're having. Maybe how we're feeling on a spiritual level. We may like to set an intention for our time together. Feel free to do so now. When you're ready, we can open our eyes and start to get moving. Let's start first by reaching up overhead, elongating our spine, seeing if we can grow a little taller, pressing down into the surface beneath us, and then we'll let this go. We'll roll our shoulders out. So we'll do a little bit of flowing and a little bit of holding. So sometimes it's called flex and flow or something like that. So we'll get some movement going, and then we'll pause and hold the same spot. So let's slide those shoulders down and back. And let's start flowing with our lateral flexion. So one arm up and over, we can inhale, and then the other way. Let's go a few times through at a comfortable pace, whatever that means for you, and a comfortable range of motion. Of course, everyone's lungs are a bit of a different size. You don't have to follow me. And then we're going to hold on just one side. So let's pause here and hold for a few rounds of breath. Careful that we're not peeling our seat up. We're still pressing it down to the floor. Let's take one more round of breath. And we'll hold on the other side. Perfect. We'll give it another round of breath. And we're ready to come back through. All right, let's twist side to side. So let's start with our hands on our core. We're going to twist from our abdominals. So sometimes we just twist with our arms and we don't actually move anywhere. So let's twist from our core, attempting to point our bellies to the side, turning our ribs. We might even take our hands to our shoulders and turn our shoulders. And let's do the same thing to the other side. So we'll come back through, take our hands to our belly. Let's attempt to turn belly to the side wall, then the ribs, and our chest and shoulders. We can take our hands to our shoulders. Awesome. And let's keep flowing. So we don't necessarily have to touch each time we go through, but that same idea of moving all parts of our spine. And then we can turn and look over our shoulder, inhaling through center, and moving all parts of our spine the other way. Go a couple more times. Keeping our tall, confident posture as we twist, but still having some softness so we're not over alert. Let's just one last time each way and we're going to hold. And we can keep our core pulled in somewhat. You probably notice that in the twist, we can still feel our ribs expanding. Even if it's tougher to get that deep belly breath, it's actually in many ways more effective, more beneficial to breathe into the rib cage when we twist. And we'll take it the other way, pulling from the belly, using all of our core muscles to twist. And as much as we can while we're here, feeling the expansion of our ribs with our inhale. So we did that 3-part breath to begin with, inhaling belly, ribs, and then chest. Because we're twisted, you might notice that we can't really access that belly breath. That's totally fine. So we could be pulling our abs in to help us sit tall. And it might be tough to get the expansion in the back and the ribs, but hopefully over time we will. All right, we'll come back through. And let's do a little seated cat and cow. I will back up so you can see me. You can stay as you are, but we're rounding our backs one way. And then lifting heart to sky, rounding the other way. So we might imagine at the base of our spine we have a tail. We tuck our tail under, like a scared dog, and then we lift the tail like a confident dog. In our rib cage, we're dropping the chest, hiding our hearts away, or shining our hearts to the back wall behind us. And then we're lifting the heart to the sky. Maybe we're tucking our chin in cat, lengthening out the back of the neck. Very proud, we're lifting the chin in cow. And then the next time we're in cow, let's hang out there. We might even want to take our hands in behind to help push us into a super tall cow. Come back through center. And we're getting ready for everybody's favorite, our forward folds. Let's go ahead and windshield wipe the legs to start. Loosening up those hips. And yes, you might like to do a really big range of motion. So sometimes we can turn to the side. For some of us, that is absolutely not going to happen, and that's okay. For some of us, we might do a really small range of motion. Totally fine. But any of this flowing or circular movements in the body help to send the message to the body that we can be calmer and more soothed. All right, let's come back through center. And we'll start by taking our feet straight forward. Yes, we could be sitting on something, and let's actually start with our knees bent. So we'll sit tall. Again, we can push down to help lengthen out the spine. We'll keep our straight spine with us as we come forward. So it might actually feel a little bit more like cow and less like cat, and it should not feel like cat. So let's come forward until we reach sort of a stopping point. And then from there, if the legs want to straighten, they can. So this is a bit more of an active variation. So we can probably still feel the breath in the chest. And we'll hang out and wait and let the back of the legs release. We might want a little bit of movement here. Bending and straightening or turning the toes side to side. And then as we feel ourselves release, if we want to release the upper body into the stretch, we can do that as well. But ideally, we're not sitting like way back on our butts. We started from this upright position. Well, let's do a couple sinking breaths here. So go as far into it as you want to go. Inhale, we'll probably feel the body lift, and then exhale, we can go a little deeper. So we'll do a couple more rounds of breath like that. Come back up to seated. Let's sit tall and we'll butterfly the legs again to bring some movement back into our hips. You may like to be seated. We may like to have the hands in behind, but whenever you're ready, come on up and we'll loosen up those hips. Now for our butterfly pose, yogi's choice, we can do exactly as we just did. So you may like to sit tall, working on your posture. We may like to hinge forward, or you may like to really release far into it. Up to you, low, medium, or high. One is no better than the other. But let's use that sinking breath again. So with our inhale, we probably feel a bit of a lift. And with our exhale, sinking forward. Let's start with our spider pose. So we can have our feet flexed or flat, knees bent. That same idea of not tucking our tail under. We are untucking the tail, which I know is tough for a lot of people, but that's okay. We'll work with whatever we have. Starting first from our tall, more active version, coming forward until we feel that kind of stopping point. And then if we like, or if it's possible, straightening our legs to some sort of point. And I know lots of us will be way back here, and that's okay. And some of us can fold in half, and that's okay too. But the benefit is that we are stretching certain areas that tend to hold tension. And if we release them, then we can sleep better. And in terms of our Chinese medicine lines, these are supposed to help with sleep. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, it still has the same energetic value. We'll do a couple more sinking breaths here, maybe inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 8. And when we're ready, we can sort of collect our legs. And it might feel really good again to shake out. If we want to windshield wipe or extend and shake them out. Even any kind of sweeping motion might be really nice after that kind of long stretch. Okay, we'll do one more seated, and then we will make our way down to the floor. So we can extend our legs bent or straight, but we're going to come into this kind of seated cow variation, lifting tall. We might like to lean back on our fingertips, but ideally our fingers either point towards our feet or out to the side, and we can push down to lift our hearts. Let's use our core strength to come back up to seated. And we'll rearrange ourselves to come down and lie on our backs. And we'll start with a couple of hip stretches. So we'll start with our right ankle over top of our left thigh. And we'll do our flowing figure 4. So we might be more comfortable. I always like to put my hands behind my head. You might actually like one of our folded towels or bolsters under the back of the head. You might feel more stable with the hands out and the palms down. It's funny that just putting the palms down can make the body feel more settled and grounded and ready for sleep. Whereas if we have the palms up, it can more feel like unsettled, ungrounded. We're kind of in this energetic free fall. So we might like to put the palms down, and then we're swaying our legs side to side in a comfortable range of motion. So yes, one of those things that, again, nothing is any better than anything else. There's no hierarchy of yoga poses. You might feel really good doing a huge, more vigorous range of motion, or even though it looks silly, it might be super relaxing to do this teeny tiny range of motion. Both are good, and we'll find our way somehow, figure out one that works.
We may like to drop the right foot all the way to the left side for a twist, or we can hold and keep flowing. And if the foot can't quite twist all the way, that's okay. If it stops halfway, we can leave it there. Let's give it a couple more rounds of breath, remembering that if we are twisted, we're probably not breathing into the belly, we're breathing into the rib cage. We can come back up through center, and we're going to keep it like we are before we switch sides. So we'll leave the same right ankle over left thigh. And then we can draw in if we like. And there are some more ambitious versions of our figure four stretch. So you might be holding knee and heel. Careful not to yank on the whole foot. We want our foot to still look like mountain pose. We could be threading the needle underneath the left thigh. And the occasional person will give the right leg a hug and extend the left. No matter where we are, we could still have this soothing, circular, or swaying movement. So it'll give us a little while to hold. Of course, you can come out of the pose early for this or any other pose if you think you've had enough. We're always looking for that sweet spot, right? That we stay long enough to get the benefit, but not so long that we overstretch. And when we're ready, let's go ahead and extend the right leg straight. So whichever our close leg was, extend it straight. We can give our left leg a big hug. And then we're ready for the other side. So now we're taking left over right, and we're ready to start that sway. So again, might be this big, vigorous, enthusiastic sway. That might feel fantastic. And often people with tighter joints or tighter range of motion like the feeling of this big range of motion. And anyone who's overly flexible or has instability or hypermobility feels more soothed in a smaller range of motion. So I know it might look silly, but for myself as someone who has issues with pelvic instability and hypermobility, this large range of motion just feels like unwieldy, uncontrolled, kind of free-falling, and it looks so silly. But this very small range of motion feels really soothing, really relaxing to the joints. So feel it out for yourself. This is why we don't do beginner, intermediate, advanced poses. It's just different sensations, a different experience for the body. And it might feel nice to keep flowing. It might feel nicer to feel that grounding feeling, letting the left foot come towards the right side. And even if it doesn't make it all the way down there, it might feel nice to just let it go halfway and let gravity sort of invite it towards the earth. Since we're twisted, we've closed off our ability to really expand the belly. So our abdominal muscles are shorter here. but that's totally fine because we can still stretch the muscles in and around our rib cage to get a deep breath, expanding our ribs. So we can keep our abs drawn in to protect our low back. We can keep some tension in our low back muscles to support our abs. But we have this free flow in the rib cage. You might even sort of feel like you're breathing into your underarms or into your back. Totally fine. We can keep flowing, we can stay here, or if we're ready, we can make it back to the center, and we can draw the legs in for a variation of thread the needle. So if we do hold the foot and the knee, just careful not to yank on the toes. Better to keep a flex in the foot so it looks the same angle that we'd have in the foot if we were standing in mountain pose. We still want that angle, but we can hold the ankle or hold the heel and pull in. So our foot is resisting being yanked around. And yes, we might like to reach behind the thigh or give this leg a hug and extend the other one. Or even just plant the other foot, doesn't have to go straight. And as I do, you might find sometimes you need to come out and readjust and then come back in. Totally normal. You might feel that you reach a stopping point and you've had enough. You can come out and come into just relaxation to wait for a moment. Maybe we rock, maybe we sway, maybe we're doing a 4-8 breath. Come back to our starting position, and our near leg, our left leg, we can go ahead and extend that out all the way. And then give our right leg a big hug. And let's come into happy baby here. So often we start from knees to chest, holding behind our thighs. We can take our knees wide. Might like to stamp our feet on the ceiling. We can hold our ankles, my personal favorite. Might like to hold your heels either on the inside or the outside. Traditionally, we take our peace fingers, our first 2 fingers, and take them to our big toe, and then cap it off with the thumb. So we're still pretty active in our happy baby. We're kicking up and we're pulling down. Rather than limply hanging around, we have some strength. And yes, we can rock, we can sway, we can hold, we can bend and straighten our legs. And there is a slightly different variation with our feet more hip width apart. You may like that one as well. And now we may be suddenly very aware of our belly breath because we have our thighs against our belly. So maybe we're doing a deep belly breath here. Enjoying that feeling of feedback, of awareness of our thigh against our stomach. Once more, let's gather our legs. We can give ourselves a hug. So we've been doing some movement closing the body. Let's finish by lengthening out the front of the body. So I'll give us a couple of options. We can stretch long, or we may like to lift up into bridge to lengthen out the front of the hips. And then I'll give us a minute here to do any final things that feel like we should be doing them. Again, we might want a big stretch, knees to chest, windshield wipe our legs, maybe a twist one way and then the other. So whatever we feel like we like, go for it. And then we'll make our way into our final relaxation. And Yogi's choice to finish up. So I think last time we did a supported fish. You might also like legs up the wall. So either one is totally fine. If we like our supported fish, our bolster is supporting our backs as we lie all the way down. We might have blocks to catch our knees. If we like legs up the wall, maybe we're doing it with no wall, with just our legs up in the air. But if you are lucky enough to have a wall nearby, kind of like a baby pose or a sleeping baby, scoot your bum right up to the wall until your bum is touching the wall. And then we use our core strength to lift our legs up and rest on the wall. We could also be resting our legs, if we don't have a wall, up on a couch or a chair, whatever we do have. And if all else fails, just lying comfortably on our backs. And I will stay up to guide us through our final relaxation. So we'll take a moment getting settled. And if you like that 4, 7, 8 breath, we can come back to it. Inhaling 4, hold the lungs full for 7, exhaling 8. If that's not your favorite, we can do what's called a physiological sigh instead. So we take a deep breath in, a little sip of air more, and then a big sigh out. Either one of those is totally fine. But that really big filling and then release can sometimes be very, shifts our state, as it's often said. So if you're in a place where you're feeling agitated, it can shift you and kind of burn up that agitated feeling. So we can do a couple more rounds of breath like that, either our 4, 7, 8 or our big breath, our little sip, and then a long sigh. And let's come into a more gentle breath here.
So we don't have to do a deep filling. So we might call this a softer breath. So often we think shallow breathing is a bad thing. It can actually be just a more gentle thing. So we're not taking tiny little puffs of breath, not super shallow breathing, but kind of just slow, gentle, like waves lapping at the beach. A little bit in, a little bit out, without forcing a natural breath. This is actually called our tidal volume, as in the tide. And just like the waves lapping at the beach, let's picture ourselves in our happy place. This may be at the beach. A place where we have to exert no effort to feel safe, relaxed, the right temperature, and comfortable. Picturing ourselves in this space, looking healthy, whole, happy, rejuvenated, completely relaxed, blissed out. And let's begin our Yoga Nidra. I'll take us through our rotation of consciousness. So take our mind around our bodies. Let's begin with our right hand. Bringing our attention to our right hand thumb. First finger. Middle finger. Ring finger. Little finger. Back of the hand. Palm of the hand. Lower arm. Upper arm. Underarm. And down to the right hip. Upper leg. Lower leg. The right foot. Sole of the foot. Top of the foot. All 5 toes. Feel the entire right side of the body. Bring the awareness to the left hand. Left hand thumb. First finger. Middle finger. Ring finger. Pinky finger. Forearm. Upper arm. Underarm. Left hip. Upper leg. lower leg, the left foot, sole of the foot, top of the foot, all 5 toes. Feel the entire left side of the body. Become aware of the shoulder blades. The right shoulder blade, the left shoulder blade. Right side of the back, left side of the back. The whole back. The back of the arms. The back of the legs. Back of the pelvis and the buttocks. The spine. Back of the head. The top of the head. Forehead. The right eye. The left eye. The space where the eyelids meet. The right cheek. The left cheek. Tip of the nose. The lips. The space where the lips meet. The chin. The throat. The space where the collarbones meet. Heart center. Navel center. Noticing the rise and fall of the breath. Gentle natural fall and natural rise of the breath, like waves lapping at the beach. Picturing ourselves in our blissed out state, in a comfortable, safe space. Picturing your body in that space, happy, healthy, and whole. If you set an intention at the beginning of our time together, option to come back to it now. for this evening, we can finish together, but let's take some time transitioning. So you may like to roll to one side, pause for a minute, but at some point in the next minute or so, let's come back to a seated position and let's stick with that 3-part breath. Feeling full, deep yogi breath on the inhale, easy breezy on the exhale. And when we're there, we can bring hands to heart or hands to heart center. If our minds have gone somewhere else, we can bring them back into our bodies, noticing the feeling of lengthening our spines, connecting to the ground. Thank you so much for joining me, not just tonight, but for the whole session, and thank you for bringing your energy. To those of us online watching the recording, thank you for being a part of this as well. The light in me honors and recognizes the light in you. So we are one. Namaste.